It's noon. The sun is directly overhead. You're barefoot on hot ground, moving at a slow, steady jog behind an animal that is faster than you, stronger than you, and better armed than you. It's been an hour. The animal stops. It stands in whatever shade it can find, sides heaving, tongue out, trying to dump heat. It cannot dump fast enough. You don't stop. You don't need shade. Your skin is doing something no other large animal on this planet can do. You are soaking wet. You are nearly naked. And you are winning. And the strangest part is that you were built for exactly this. Every part of you, including the part you shave. Right now, sitting still, you are leaking water through roughly 3 million tiny holes in your skin. You've been doing it since before you were born. It's the single most distinctive thing about the human body, more distinctive than the brain, and you have never once thought about it as a feature. Here's the unsettling part. That system was built to be used hard. Yours mostly isn't. But here's the wild part. The answer to why humans went bare isn't about hair. It's about water and heat and a hunting strategy so slow and so strange that most people refuse to believe it ever worked. By the end of this, your own sweat is going to look like a piece of technology. Let's start with the obvious question nobody asks. Why would a mammal give up fur? Fur is one of the best pieces of equipment evolution has ever produced. It insulates in cold, it shades in heat. It sheds rain, blunts thorns, cushions blows, and hides you against a background of dry grass. Every other primate has it. Every land mammal your size has it, from wild boars to wolves to deer. The exceptions are almost comically specific. Elephants and rhinos, too big to cool themselves any other way. Naked mole rats, which never see the sun. Whales, dolphins, which left land entirely. And then there's you. Medium-sized, warm-blooded, walking around a hot planet with your skin hanging out in the open. On paper, you shouldn't exist. Here's something nobody tells you about human hairlessness. You aren't hairless. You never were. Count the hair follicles on a human body, and you get somewhere around 5 million. Count them on a chimpanzee of similar size, and you get roughly the same number. 5 million. People have actually done this, patch by patch, under a microscope. Nobody's idea of a good afternoon. The follicles didn't go anywhere. What changed is what comes out of them. Dermatologists call the fine, short, pale hair covering most of your body vellus hair. That sounds academic, so here's the plain version. It's hair that never got the message to grow. Terminal hair, the stuff on your scalp and eyebrows, gets a long growth phase, pigment and thickness. Vellus hair gets shut down early, stays thin, stays colorless, and stays short enough that from 3 feet away your skin reads as bare. It isn't. Hold your forearm up to a window and watch the light catch it. You're furrier than you think. This is a lawn mowed to stubble, not a lawn dug up and paved. Same field, same seeding, different management. Which is why a hormone shift can convert that stubble into a full beard in about 2 years. And why an entire global industry exists to fight a battle we supposedly won 2 million years ago. Yes, this sounds like a technicality. It isn't. Evolution didn't delete your coat. It turned the volume down and left the dial installed. And that tells you the change was never about removing hair. It was about getting at the skin underneath. But it gets stranger. Here's where it gets really interesting. Look at what that exposed skin got in exchange. Spread across your body are somewhere between 2 and 4 million eccrine sweat glands. Eccrine is just the word for the thin, watery, salty sweat that comes out nearly everywhere, as opposed to the thicker stuff concentrated in your armpits. 2 to 4 million of them. No other primate is close. Chimpanzees sweat, but with a far smaller share of the productive kind, and they can't approach your output. A fit human can push out a liter of sweat an hour for hours, and endurance athletes have been measured above 2 liters an hour in heat. 2 liters an hour. Out of your skin. That's evaporative cooling. The same trick as a wet towel on a hot day or a swamp cooler in a dry climate. Water carries heat away when it leaves. And here's the thing about fur. Fur ruins it. Sweat trapped in a coat soaks the hair and cools almost nothing, which is why dogs pant. Not because panting is better, but because sweating through fur is pointless. Panting works, and it also competes with breathing, and it falls apart when an animal needs to run and cool at the same moment. Bare skin, plus a few million taps, is a full-body radiator that keeps running while you move. Humans are so attached to this system that we invented the sauna, a small wooden room you pay money to sit in so you can sweat on purpose. That's a joke, and it's also the point. Evaporative cooling is the human superpower, and we treat it as an odor problem. It's why you can be outdoors at midday in July, while most large mammals are lying down waiting for evening. Which raises the obvious question: cooling for what? Now let's talk about something that sounds like a joke and turns out to be hard evidence. Skin doesn't fossilize. Hair doesn't fossilize. So how could anyone possibly date this? The answer is lice. Geneticists use something called a molecular clock, which sounds like a device and isn't. DNA accumulates small random changes at a roughly steady rate. So if you compare two related species and count the differences, you can estimate when they split. Now, humans host lice in more than one place, and pubic lice are not close relatives of head lice. Their nearest relatives are gorilla lice, and that split dates to roughly 3 million years ago. 3 million years. Parasites only specialize like that when a habitat gets cut in two. It's the same logic as working out when a couple separated by checking when the male started going to two addresses, which means that by around 3 million years ago, there was already a bare stretch of skin between our ancestors' heads and their groins. Then there's the other end of the timeline. Body lice, which live in clothing rather than on skin, split from head lice somewhere around 70,000 years ago, which is a decent clue about when clothes arrived. Your ancestors' parasites kept better records than your ancestors did. Scientists are still arguing about the exact dates, and molecular clocks carry real error bars, so hold these as estimates rather than birthdays. A second line of evidence points the same direction. Genetic work on pigmentation suggests dark skin was already locked in over 1 million years ago. You don't need dark skin under fur. Fur is the sunscreen. So the skin went bare first, and the melanin arrived to cover the bill. But here's the question nobody seems to ask loudly enough. You've probably heard the beautiful answer. It goes like this. Our ancestors waded into shallow water. They swam, they dove for shellfish, they spent generations half submerged. And water mammals lose their fur. Dolphins did. Whales did. So we shed ours, kept a layer of fat beneath the skin for insulation, and that's why you can hold your breath and why infants take to water so easily. The marine biologist Alistair Hardy proposed it in 1960, and the writer Elaine Morgan spent decades making it gorgeous. Explains everything at once. Elegant, romantic, almost certainly wrong. Semi-aquatic mammals your size don't go bare. Otters and beavers double down on dense fur, because trapped air insulates far better than naked skin in cold water. The animals that strip down are enormous and fully committed. Whales, dugongs, hippos, bodies with volume to spare. And the fossil and environmental record puts our ancestors in a shifting patchwork of woodland and open grassland, not on a beach. What actually happened is less charming. Africa opened up and got hotter. Standing upright slashed the sunlight landing on your body, because a vertical animal catches the midday sun on its head and shoulders instead of across its back. And once you were upright, moving and overheating, selection went after the only problem that mattered: heat. In 1984, a South African researcher named Liebenberg went into the central Kalahari to learn tracking from chimpanzee hunters. Persistence hunting, running an animal down on foot until it overheats, was already nearly gone, kept alive by a handful of older men. Liebenberg didn't just observe, he ran. That meant matching expert hunters across open sand in midday heat. And on at least one chase, he misjudged his own water badly and ended up seriously dehydrated, which is a polite way of saying the anthropologist nearly became part of his own dataset. He recorded these hunts between 1985 and 2001 and published them in the journal Current Anthropology in 2006. The numbers are these: chases of roughly 25 to 35 kilometers, 2 to 5 hours, air temperatures near 40 degrees Celsius. And the kill usually meant walking up to an animal that could no longer stand. Let that sink in for a second. A person with no dogs, no horse, no bow, outlasting a large antelope in the heat of the day, on foot. If that sounds like a tall tale about superhuman ancestors, I understand. It was documented repeatedly with stopwatches. The kudu is faster in every single burst. It just can't shed heat while it runs. You can. This is the evidence behind the endurance running hypothesis that Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman laid out in 2004. Your body isn't a weak version of a predator. It's a specialized one. Here's the part of this video that nobody expects. Nobody sensible is arguing we should go back to chasing antelope across the Kalahari. Full stop. Air conditioning saves lives every summer. Clothing, shade, refrigeration, clean water, and the ability to work indoors in August are straightforwardly good, and anyone romanticizing chronic dehydration has never experienced it. But look what happened. You inherited a body whose most exceptional trait is moving for hours in heat, and you live inside a world engineered so you never have to. Hunter-gatherer adults today typically cover something like 8 to 12 kilometers on foot in a day. Most of us cover a fraction of that. That difference isn't laziness. It's architecture and cars and jobs and the entirely reasonable preference for not being hot. This is nobody's moral failure. But there's a cost, and it shows up in strange places. Heat tolerance is trainable, and untrained it fades, which is part of why heat waves hit hardest in populations that rarely sweat. And then there's the culture we built on top of it. We treat the single most impressive physiological trick our species owns as a hygiene defect. We block it chemically. We apologize for it in meetings. The one trait that let your ancestors outlast animals faster than them is the thing you're embarrassed about at a wedding. So here's the answer. You didn't lose your fur. You turned it down. You didn't get weaker. You got cooled. You didn't win by being fast. You won by not stopping. You didn't beat the antelope with claws or fangs or speed. You beat it with water and skin and time. Your ancestors didn't outfight the open country. They outlasted it. No claws, no fangs, no speed. Just a body that could keep moving long after everything else had to lie down in the shade. There's something worth sitting with here. Most animals are built around a moment. A strike, a sprint, one decisive second. You're built around duration. Your whole design assumes tomorrow, and the day after, and the slow accumulation of effort nobody watches. That's an odd thing to carry in your bones. It means patience isn't only a virtue somebody invented to keep you well-behaved. That's not a philosophy. That's engineering. You come from a long line of creatures who kept going.